Okay, let's talk for a minute about how keyword intent works. Most B2B marketers will be familiar with the concept of keywords because of search engine marketing, right? Google AdWords, keyword planners like SEMrush, SimilarWeb. But B2B intent around keywords is actually something quite different. First, let's talk about, in order to understand how keyword intent data works, we have to understand how the ad tech ecosystem works. Because most keyword intent data comes from ad exchanges. So what happens is you go and visit a company's website. Within that website, there are going to be a bunch of third-party cookies, right, from different programmatic advertisers called demand-side platforms. Think Trade Desk, Beeswax. There's tons of them out there, but let's just concentrate on the fact that these ad tech platforms are cooking your browser, and the information that they are sending back to themselves includes sometimes information about the web page that a person's visiting, like the content of that web page as captured in the form of keywords. So these little snippets of code are all over the internet, tons of different websites, and through them, these DSPs are aggregating all of the individuals and IP addresses that are visiting different websites and viewing different content on those websites. And then they take that content and they associate it with a keyword. So you have an IP address and a keyword, and you have them being aggregated from all across the internet. If these DSPs are allowed to, they can form these groups of keywords and IPs into a derivative product, aka a keyword intent tool. This is my understanding of how Rollworks' keyword intent product functions. So data. So what somebody like Rollworks has done is they've aggregated all of this third-party cookie data about the websites that have been visited. And then they build up this big pool of data that they can use to source intent topics and to also provide for retargeting purposes. However, there are several limitations alongside these tools. The first is that third-party cookies and tracking is getting harder and harder and more limited. Safari, Firefox, both limited. Anything on iOS significantly limited. Therefore, the ability to actually capture data across a wide surface of the web, about 50% in the US, is now gone. The second piece that's also really important to call out is that while a lot of these tools, these intent-based tools, promise that they're doing some sort of context setting, scoring, natural language processing, all of these things, you can sometimes find that if the data source is bitstream DSP data, it's not of a very high quality. So you'll frequently see salespeople taking this keyword intent data and saying, this company is surging on the topic of supply chain software, and you reach out to somebody at the company and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. We're not in the market for anything like that. Because it's very fragmented data. There's a lot of things that could go wrong along the way of saying that this company actually searching for supply chain data, or did they just did somebody from this company visit a website that has to do with supply chain data? Who's to say, right? Maybe it wasn't even, the IP wasn't even matched back to the company correctly in the first place, right? There's a trail of breadcrumbs that these data providers are trying to piece together that each have potential failure points. Bidstream data, particularly data provided by, which is the data provided by DSPs, is particularly challenging because they don't take into consideration the full context of the website and the source of that data. Now, candidly, like, I suspect that a lot of the keyword intent tools that I've fooled around with, like Zoom Infos, like Apollos, are maybe relying on this Bidstream DSP data. However, Bombora purports itself to operate a little differently. So they say that they are a collection of 4,000 plus B2B websites. Everybody opts in, they install the Bombora cookie. It therefore is more likely to be GDP. They install a first-party cookie, which is more likely to be GDPR compliant. The publishers that have the pass the data along to Bombora, not through a cookie itself, but through another mechanism, likely an API, and they collect information like timestamp, IP, URL, the content consumption, the other contextual data around it, and like engagement of that person. So how deep did the person scroll? What's like the content of the site in general? Scroll velocity is another metric. Dwell time, how long did they sit like looking at this section? And they use that to contribute to a score around a keyword. They claim to have NLP that understands content across a taxonomy of 6,900 topics that grows monthly. So this is like a much more, so what they're essentially arguing is, hey, we're focused on B2B. We don't go across the universe of the internet. Instead, we focus on 4,000, a limited set of websites. We understand the context around all of those websites. We know how deep somebody is engaging in certain pieces of the content of that website, and therefore we can say that they are surging around this topic. That is supposedly what differentiates Bombora and makes them the best. All this is to say that I think a lot of the typical keyword intent tools, such as Rollworks, such as ones that are built on the back of DSP data, are likely going the way of the dodo, with all of the increased restrictions around what third-party cookies can pass along. And that tools like Bombora that really focus and that have a niche are likely to have the most accurate data and be collected in a privacy-safe way, which means they're around to last. So if you're thinking about keyword intent, I would ask, if you're investigating it, ask the keyword intent provider, how do they collect the data? Is it through first-party data or third-party data? Does any of the data come from the bid stream or from DSPs? You could ask them if it comes from a data management platform or not. The closer the provider is to the source of the data and has built tools and infrastructure around understanding and interpreting the context of the keyword, the more the context of the content for the keyword, the more likely that tool is to be accurate and useful. So hope this helps decipher a little bit more of the B2B intent data universe.